So in this video, I want to show you how I work with overtones to create interesting sounds, soundscapes, and so on. Some tips and tricks, how you can look at things, maybe some gotchas in there. So I switch it to Bitwig. In here, sometimes I use Serum, and I don't use Serum as a synthesizer. I use most of the times just a wavetable editor. Maybe use here also a spectrum device. So let's go to the editor here, and we have here at the bottom all the indexes or wave shapes of the wavetable. At the moment it's just a saw. It looks like this. Maybe switch this here to huge. Yeah, we can see we have here root partial and all the overtones, all the overtone partials, and so on. So we can clear this here and draw in just one root partial. It gives you pretty clean sine wave, sine partial here. And you can create overtones with just these drawers here, and can say I want to mix here basically the root frequency with 8 times the frequency of this one. It gets you this wave shape here. And yeah, you can target specific frequencies if you want to, but what I do most of the times is right click here and say randomize low 16 bins, which means all these 16 bins here up to here are randomized. So we get this outcome, right? Then I go to a different shape or different index here, randomize again. Something like this. Or maybe I draw something in here. So most of the times it's only interesting to change here the lower partials. You can go up to 512, but most of the times everything that defines the sounds is within the first window here. Everything above is just noise, or you can introduce noise or a bit of distortion to create some interesting things on top. You don't need to draw everything in here. So create some interesting noises here just by painting and stuff. Of course, you can also paint in here if you want to. And with all these random partials, we can now morph between them. Or can say process, normalize each table, and then say morph crossfade or maybe spectral. That's cool. Export as 16-bit wave, and I put this here into my wavetable folder with all my wavetables in there. And I call this here chef, maybe chef table, I don't know, save. And we can close this down and create here a new track with the polymer. And in here we have already the wavetable oscillator, and with the browser in here we have all the wavetables that are in the library, not in this directory. So I have to import everything from this directory again. So I right click here on the empty space and say import wavetables. I don't know actually why you have to right click on here. It needs to be a button in my opinion, but it is how it is. Import wavetables, and then you go into this directory here, just choose it, and now when I hit OK, I copy all these files from this directory into the library. And in the background, Bitwig creates this nice little icon here from the wavetable. You can search for it, chef table, nice. And now we have it in here in this wavetable oscillator. And we can use it. So to create an interesting motif here, I use my step sequencer. Randomize here the frequencies of the pitch steps. Leave the first one here at 0. get this kind of sound. Pretty thin, but it's okay. So now I can use pressure, which is randomized here by the step sequencer, and can step through the wavetable here. And because I left the root or the fundamental completely at 0, we can dial it in here with the sub oscillator. We can go to 0 and use a sine partial and then bring in the partial at the bottom. Can I play this actually here? Yeah, maybe bring this down, use a spectrum here, open this up. So this is here just a wavetable, right? And the root or the fundamental is non-existent, and I can bring this in here with the sub oscillator. And the sub oscillator itself is actually a mix. So when you bring this up to 100%, you only hear the sub oscillator. So you can mix and match already with the sub oscillator in the wavetable, and yeah, come up with some interesting things. Because you can also switch this here to pulse. And the pulse itself has some overtones, at least all the overtones. Okay, so now we have here use pressure for that. We can use timbre for the modulation here, modulation amount of the filter. Let's go down to 0. Oh, that's timbre, yeah. And you can choose how much you want to dial in the fundamental frequency here. In the FX box we use a convolution reverb, and I do this all the time to mix basically different reverbs from Bitwig. Brings so much more interesting sounds, or yeah, creates so much better space. So I use a convolution here to bring in a bit of realism, let's say it, a cathedral impulse response here. Then I use a delay plus because I like the space diffusion algorithm here. So I combine basically this reverb with this reverb here with a slight mix. And then at the end, we also use the delay too. It's basically how Spacer is built, this VST I showed you on my channel here, where you can use multiple different delays and reverbs and combine them. This is also interesting. It's a phase modulation here from the sub oscillator to the wavetable oscillator. So we use also a step mod here. Speed up and 15 steps. And maybe unison. I think this already sounds pretty nice, and an interesting sound or line or pattern you can use as a backdrop for a track. Okay, that's that. With the wavetable we are a bit limited because we are limited to these 256 positions here, right? If you want to change certain partials in here, it's not that easy. You can't do it. You have to use the filter to amplify or reduce certain harmonics. That's possible, but it's also not so fluid. So what we can do is we can use instead the polygrid. Of course, we can always use the polygrid. And in here we can recreate basically the editor of Serum, where you use the drawers to draw in partials. But here we use, for every draw, we use a sine oscillator. So this one is the first one. This is the root partial here, 1, 1. This is the second harmonic here, the third harmonic, fourth harmonic, fifth, and so on. We don't need to use that much. Like I said, the lower partials define basically the sound. Most of the times you're pretty fine with five partials. You can use as many as you want, of course. We use a sum device here to summarize basically the output of this. And we probably want to use an AD. We probably also want to reduce the volume, go to 50%, because we summarize here multiple partials, maybe 20%. And then we go here into out, and maybe a filter, huh? Serum key, and use a second one for the filter. You can change then later on. And what we also want to do is we want to probably change the loudness here of some of these partials. So first I use an attenuate for everything. And this is the root one. This one is probably the loudest, so we keep this at 60%. This one goes down, this one goes down, and so on. And here we can also reduce the overtones, of course, with this. But for the moment I keep it completely open. I use a spectrum inside here. Go in here. Let's see how this sounds. So you can see all the partials here. So instead of going here the harmonic series up, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, we can just go a bit crazy and leave the root or the fundamental untouched, but experiment here a bit with different. And it really doesn't matter what kind of thing you choose here, even though it sounds sometimes a bit dissonant. But the root note or the root frequency is still the loudest, which defines the pitch of the sound anyway. And then we can use the filter to bring this out of the filter. And maybe use here the same step sequencer in front of the polygrid. Let's see how this sounds. Sounds kind of similar, or not similar, but it's a different sound quality. So now we can try and make the sound a bit more interesting over time. So we can use multiple ways to, to change this. So one idea would be to use a step mod here. And with the step mod, we change basically the partials over time. Or let's start here with this one. We are at 17 here. And then right click, and I think you can randomize, generate random, yeah. Let's see how this sounds. Or maybe you start here at 2, at 3 here. Random is actually not that good. So we get different, or we target different partials here. And maybe we use a step mod here on the outside. 15 steps. And we change here the modulation amount. So here in the FX box we can also use the convolution again. Maybe a different... Oh, we just use the same space, that's okay. Maybe reverse here. So here we play basically in the same octave as the other arpeggiator. So we use here transpose and pull this down 1 octave. And maybe play a bit slower here. Peak limiter to bring up the volume. And then combine basically this one with this one. Okay, so make this a bit longer. All we need now is probably a pad sound, so we can do the same trick with the pad sound. Use a polygrid. Let's go to devices here. Inside of the polygrid, we can use again sine partials to create some interesting pad sounds. Just with the mixer here. So again, we leave here the root or the fundamental untouched, and we go for interesting partials here. We use an ADSR, the slow attack, slow release, audio out, maybe a filter, cell key. This time we go for bandpass, maybe bandpass 2. Yeah, let's see. Output here. And use a delay here, a bit longer. We want to use a blur, maybe chorus plus, just a tad. maybe detune here some of these. I want to add here a render mod. Pretty slow. Bipolar, and I want to modify here the pitch. Yeah, let's change the skew here. That's a bit too much maybe here. That's too much. What we can do instead of using here just intonation, we can put this to 0 and use a quantizer to stay in the scale, because most of the times ambient is diatonic anyway. And I know my scale here. That's probably not needed. And then use a ratio and a pitch in. So instead of using here the pre-chords, we use this pitch in, then go into that, and then we pitch quantize everything that comes out of the ratio to stay in scale. Let's see how this sounds here together with Let's try and add here a step modulator and make this one pretty slow. Maybe not too long, 5 steps. Go down to 3 here, go up to 8 maybe. Then we switch to through the ratios here and get interesting melodies, sounds with the pad. I don't know. Maybe it's too fast. Let's go to twice. So all we need is one note here. So I'm going for a note grid. I don't want to paint it into the piano roll. So I don't need a pitch. The pitch is D#2, and I trigger this with triggers, also pretty slow. And then we make this really short, 1 millisecond. Then we invert the signal with the knot. Yeah, nice. Yeah, and this is something we can modulate here with the random mod. Whoops. Hertz, so it's not bound to the song tempo. It's also not re-triggered. Maybe too quiet. This is modulated by this random mod, okay. Let's go to 12 here. Let's pull this 1 octave down here, these two. And I probably want to have a peak limit at the end. EQ 5, just to check. I think it sounds nice so far. So for the bass, we can just refer to some basic stuff here. Or let's completely remove the piano roll from this tutorial. Use a note grid. Trigger, oh, not this trigger, this trigger. Go for D#0. Yeah, that sounds okay. Monophonic. Nice. Maybe a quantize here into that. Only use the pentatonic notes here. And the pitch defined 0, D#0. then maybe add the value. Bipolar. Step mode here. Also bipolar. Like the slower. %, maybe 15%. Too fast. That's okay. Oh, we increase the step size to 8, pull this down to 1. That's also cool. Okay, so then you have a bass basically. So these are basically the techniques I'm using for creating harmonics with the wavetable here, Serum, Serum editor, putting all the harmonics in there. Most of the times it's just random, because I know I want to use it for exactly this purpose here. Or you use the grid itself, you stack just some sine partials here and then randomize the ratios. Or you use that again for the pad sounds here, and then you add everything together and you have a nice little background for a track. Okay, that's it for this video. That's all. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Leave a like if you liked the video, of course. Bye.